Society Matters.
Welcome. I'm Bernie Furshpan, host of Ordinary Heroes here on hmTV at the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center in Glen Cove, Long Island. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've had some extraordinary people on our series, Ordinary Heroes. Today we have a very special guest, a true hero, in my opinion. He's a young guy, but he's done things that most of us haven't done in a lifetime. I'd like to introduce Michael Lee. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here today. I've been working with the center for almost 3 years now, and Dr. Furshpan here has been one of the most incredible people I've met in a lifetime. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Coming from you, actually, it's quite a compliment. So thanks so much. You've been involved with an organization called Chess Sanity. And Chess Sanity is, I think, a nonprofit organization that organizes chess events around Long Island, generally in parks, if I'm not mistaken, and is involved with charities. Is that right?
Yes. Chess Sanity has been a big part of my experience with chess for a large part of my life. I first met Chess Sanity when I encountered my first chess coach, Wesley Wang, who's the founder of Chess Sanity, along with his brother, attended the same high school as I did in Jericho, just a few miles from here. And I think what makes Chess Sanity a bit more meaningful than most of the chess organizations you'll see in New York City is that the core of the mission has been preserved so well across time, and that's really just doing whatever that is necessary to make sure that we spread the love of chess as far as possible, and through our local community on Long Island. I've been there for Chess Sanity, donating chess sets and giving lectures to some districts that might be considered underprivileged in New York City and across Long Island.
We got involved with your organization and you personally about 3 years ago, correct? When we did the first Checkmate Hate program. It was in September of about 3 years ago. We've been doing this every September now since. And it was wonderful to meet you. I was quite impressed. We had media coverage here. And how old were you at that time?
If I'm not mistaken, I was 12 years old, yes.
You spoke so eloquently on the TV coverage interview. I couldn't believe. I said, I don't know how old he was, but that's what I said at the time. I don't know if he was 10 or 12, but it was quite impressive. And you have quite a personal mission, and that is to help fight hate, to put a checkmate on hate. And what other projects have you been involved with along those same lines?
I've been playing chess since as long as I can remember. My dad, he used to play chess with me a lot when I was younger, and he had this running joke that when I first learned to play chess, I was so young that I couldn't even differentiate between the dark and the light squares on the board. Which is pretty funny. And from this passion for chess that I've had, I've really tried to have a personal mission throughout this, which is to just establish that in this community that hate and bigotry and anything along those lines is simply intolerable, especially on Long Island, where it has been so chaotic with the pandemic in the past few years. And as thank you for your compliments earlier, I'm absolutely flattered, to be on this podcast with the sign behind us that says humanity matters, because that is the most important thing.
You've done some great things, and it's always been fun doing these events here. How have you seen your program and organization have an impact on young people? In what way has it made an impact?
I think in particular, one of the best ways that, Chessanity has impacted people across Long Island and people across New York is, the director of Chessanity, Winston, who's Wesley's father, personally visits all of our events, across school districts, and he really just tries to talk to the kids about what they're interested in about chess. It's a very useful skill that you learn that improves all aspects of your critical thinking, and it really makes you mature very fast, which I think is a very great skill. And in terms of our communal impact, especially for the center, we've donated, if I recall correctly, about almost 3,000 USD over the past 2 years. This
Yes,
wonderful cause at hmTV, which we are so very grateful for.
I mean, you are what we consider an upstander, and I'm proud to know you. And you have a wonderful family as well. Tell me, the support you get from both your parents, how has that helped you?
My dad has a degree in history, and so when I was very young, most dads would take their kids maybe to the beach or to the park, and then after my dad had done both those things, he would sit with me in my house, and he would just make me flip through not really make me, just be there behind me as I flip through the history textbook, and then my dad always, as he liked to say, he had a passion for history because he believed that, the history of humanity reflected how we were growing and, what the future would be. He was definitely very insightful. I feel like I'm doing an obituary right now, the way I'm speaking in past tense. My dad always gave me room to explore what I was interested in, while he introduced me to his own historical passion. My mom was a attorney in Shanghai for many years, and she's now very involved in the arts, particularly in Syosset. She runs an art school in Syosset where she teaches traditional Chinese brush painting, traditional Chinese watercolor to elementary schoolers and middle schoolers. So I think from that same perspective, my parents, they always let me figure out what I wanted to do, and that really led to me discovering all these aspects about using chess to portray a broader message about rights and about preserving this human respect.
You said that your father loves history, right? And I'm sure you do too. Many Jews fled to Shanghai, China, during World War II and before that. Jews during the diaspora spread out all over the world, but they found a safe haven in Shanghai. What do you know about that, and what kind of communities were developed, and how well did they get along with their neighbors in China?
Yes, of course. So what I feel, and my father as well, when he guided me along this path of research, was a very interesting yet overlooked piece of history was how, during this mass, forced immigration of Jewish peoples across the Holocaust, across what called the Shoah, the
Shoah.
The Shoah,
Yeah.
excuse me.
It's okay.
Almost 20,000 of these Jews settled in Shanghai, and it formed a really complex community because, you can't really categorize these people as Jews or just refugees in the way they acted, in the way they quickly strengthened their community, in the way they dictated, how this Chinese community viewed the Jews and how, this Chinese and Jewish relationship developed. And in terms of, just this historical timeline, it's very interesting to see that even today in Shanghai, there's still very much remnants of Jewish culture and the Jewish impact from when they settled there in 1944, in 1943 to 1945, actually. The Jewish coffee shops that were made to resemble those in Austria and in Germany are still open, and there's a very interesting and very, what I feel, human testament to those Jews with the Museum of Jewish History and Culture that's still open in Shanghai today.
Fascinating. You have a brilliant mind. And
Thank you. I'm very
and
flattered.
with that brilliant mind, let me pose a question and challenge you to tell me what you think would be some possible solutions to make people listen to each other rather than yell at each other. We have a world where there's still a lot of hate, a lot of polarization, a lot of marginalization of minorities. What will your generation do to make a difference? Now, every generation that inherits this broken world, can take it as is, face value, or push back the hate part and say, hey, that part we don't necessarily want to inherit. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I think especially in the young people in my generation, the biggest thing that we can do to combat this hate and this bigotry that is so inevitably spreading is to just, not think of ourselves as so little as we often do, and just remember that anything we can add to this what I think of like as a heroic cause almost is something we can offer. For me, it's always been chess, and this fundraiser, really getting in touch with the people on Long Island, and I feel that there are many of my friends, many of my classmates out there that have similar talents that they can employ to as you said, make people listen to one another rather yell at one another, to really understand that each of us is an incredible individual, and yet we're so strong together that we should all bond, and we should take each other's creativity instead of only fragmenting our society when there already are so many difficulties.
People look at differences between them and others. What about this new perspective that genetic science has now shown us, that every human on this planet converged to one mother of humanity sometime around 200,000 years ago, called mitochondrial Eve? Mm-hmm. Every person that we bump into on this planet is somewhere between our 15th and 50th cousin. Do you think a perspective like that, a broad perspective rather than specific differences, a more broad perspective that demonstrates that we really are all kin, we are all family, do you think that might change the way people see each other?
I think that just goes to show, there's really no use fighting over, petty things. I like to call them petty because I feel like the most important thing of life is really just human connection and just being together with the people that you love. And I think that maybe sometimes you just need to remember that. So I think that genetic scientific discovery just goes to show.
I mean, that's exactly what I'm talking about, and that is the correct perspective. And it's certainly a different perspective than the way like you said, we've been fighting over petty things, playing in the mud, fighting in the mud, rather than pulling back and seeing a broader picture. Astronauts, whenever they come back from being up in space, have a transformative experience, and they look at the planet and say, oh my God, it's such a tiny little planet in this vast, infinite universe. Why are we fighting over this little land, this little rock that's floating in the middle of the universe? Why does it have to take that kind of a perspective? Why can't we just appreciate each other? It sounds easier than it is to accomplish, that's for sure.
It definitely does sound much easier than it is to accomplish. And that's why we're here today. That's why we're talking on this podcast. That's why hmTV exists. Just as, a gentle yet powerful reminder that, we're all human at the end of the day.
Beautiful.
There's more that we can get along on than, fight in the mud over. So.
Absolutely. What are your goals for yourself in the future? Now, you are a junior in high school?
I am going to sophomore year, actually.
You're going to your sophomore year. Okay. Do you have any plans right now? Any thoughts?
I think just continuing to maximize the outreach that we've had in the past few years with Checkmate Hate, bring all sorts of people together, making them forget that there are different people outside of the chessboard, and really just trying to emphasize this human connection and to drive out all forms of bigotry and hate in our community.
What about you personally? 20 years from now, where are you going to be? What are you going to be doing? You think about that?
I hope to be a lawyer in 20 years. That's my dream job, if I'm being completely honest.
Well, with the way you're going, you'll probably end up being a lawyer in 3 years.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm very flattered. And one of the misconceptions that people often have about the job is that lawyers and attorneys think of them as combative individuals.
Right.
How I think of lawyers and attorneys is that more of coherent individuals, and that they bridge the gaps in understanding. And in that way, I think this work has really been meaningful to me.
Well, good for you. Do you have any siblings?
No, I'm an only child, sadly. I always wanted siblings.
You always wanted a sibling?
I always wanted siblings, yes.
Do you think being an only child is an advantage or a disadvantage? Your personal opinion.
That I can't say. I think one of the things that's different about being an only child and a sibling is that when you have a sibling, you sort of learn this love-hate relationship, and then over time, you almost come to realize that people are a lot less different to you than you think. When you're an only child, I think that perspective is more ingrained from the start, because you don't have someone almost jeering at you every day.
Right.
And then you really come to appreciate your parents and the people around you a bit more from the start. I was away at summer camp for 3 weeks this past summer, and then when I got back to Long Island, to Jericho, I was hugging my mom and my dad, and I just didn't understand how I was getting into such petty disputes sometimes with them in the past. Yeah, so
we kind of take people for granted, right? Especially the ones that are close to us. But then when you're away for a period of time, right? You feel that separation. You realize the importance of that relationship.
Unfortunately, that is the truth, as well as.
Yeah, are you on social media?
I am, yes.
And so, where do you think social media should go? Social media has some advantages, but there's a lot of hate and propaganda that's disseminated. People buy into a lot of it without vetting the information, without digging deeper, without diving deeper about the facts. Where do you think social media should go, and what do you think we should do about it?
I think the big question of social media really comes down, in part, not just the people scrolling through social media, but the educators in our schools. And I was very lucky, because when I attended elementary school in middle school in Jericho, there was always a big emphasis on digital footprint and differentiating between, as you said, propaganda and in the news that we see every day on social media. So the sad thing about social media is that is inevitable. Propaganda and fake news and hate and bigotry will always be on social media. But we have to learn a bit, and we have to learn a bit from the people around us to maybe have a little filter in our heads to not take everything on social media to heart, and to really stay in the real world, many of the things that we do here.
Now, AI, that's the latest innovation, has been very helpful to many of us technologically, with processes and procedures, and it helps expedite a lot of things. I've used it, and I think it's wonderful. However, it's confusing a lot of people online. Many people are looking at videos and images that was created by AI, and it looks real. What's going to happen with this? What do you think? What's your opinion?
The rate that AI is developing is, it's definitely, it has its benefits technologically, as you just said, but it definitely is also a bit concerning. It blurs the line between this digital footprint concept, with a lot of people using it harmfully online. I don't think that definitely condemns the use of AI in any way, but what I will say is that AI is personified a bit more than it should be. People look at AI like it's their friend more than it should be, and really, I think it should be more of a tool. Yes, that doesn't. I don't think it should have anything more to do with human ethics than it should. It should be used in that sort of way. And the boundary between, as you said, these things with social media and digital footprint and artificial intelligence is blurring as we speak.
Well, I got to say, it's been been pretty wonderful to talk with you today and hear your perspective from your young life. I have many years behind me, and my concern is tomorrow's future for our kids, and we're doing the best we can here by educating as many people as possible about listening to each other, being more tolerant, and thinking critically about what they're reading and what they're seeing, so that they can be a little bit more empathetic towards other people. Let's just wrap up this episode and talk about the Chessanity's Checkmate Hate in just a few weeks.
Certainly. For the third year in a row, in collaboration with the Center, Chessanity and I will be hosting our third annual Checkmate Hate event, where, with the help of local tournament directors, we're organizing a tournament. All registration proceeds will, of course, be donated to the center.
And we thank you for that.
Most meaningful mission. You're absolutely welcome there. Hope we're going to get a lot of people to come out, and hopefully it'll be a boom.
A couple of hundred people come out on these things. And for people to register, they just have to go to the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center website. That's hmTcli.org. And I want to thank you for joining me today and listening to your perspective. And it was quite interesting, to say the least. And to say the most, it was brilliant. So I want to thank you so much for your time with us today.
I'm very flattered, and of course, very thankful for this opportunity with the center. Thank you again, Dr. Furshpan.
My pleasure, and thank you all for joining us for another episode here on hmTv. Make sure to watch all of our podcasts. They're all terrific, and we offer a lot of content about various topics relating to Humanity Matters. I'm your host, Dr. Bernie Furshpan. For Ordinary Heroes, we had an extraordinary hero today. Thank you, and until next time.